Hi Troop 840 Scouts. Welcome to my beginning bee yard. I started beekeeping about 6 weeks ago. I intended just to get started with a really small hive, but when I was shopping for bees, I ended up buying 2 full-size hives. Since then, I've split into 2 smaller, I put those hives in 2 smaller, what's called nukes, smaller hives, which I'll show you later. And we're also going to transfer one of those nukes into a full-size hive, and you'll get to see the bees. First, I want to tell you a little bit about bees and how they reproduce and how they make honey and so forth. So, bees are very important, especially for you and us in our environment, because bees pollinate, and without pollination, we don't get flowers and fruits and vegetables and all of those things. So bees, the honeybee is very important. All bees are very important to pollination. A beehive consists of a single queen, up to 15% or so of what's called drones, which are male bees, and then the rest of the bees are called worker bees. A healthy hive will generally have 30 to 50,000 bees. The hives that we're going to transfer, I'm estimating they are probably up to about 5,000 bees, so it's time to move them from what's called a starter nucleus colony to a full-size colony. The honeybee, the queen honeybee lays all the eggs for the hive. In her lifetime, she will lay those probably 100,000 or 200,000 bees in her lifetime if she's healthy. So a beehive consists of queens, workers, who are all females, and drones, who are males. The only purpose of the drone is to mate with the queen, and they do that over about a 5-day period, and then she is mated for life. The life of a honeybee is, for a worker bee, and similar for drones, is they stay as an egg for 3 days, they pupate to a larvae for 6 days, then their cell is capped, and in a total of 21 days, they emerge as a fully grown bee. After they emerge, all they do is eat and try to build energy for a day or two, and then they go to work, starting out by cleaning the hive, taking out dead bees, things like that. As they mature over a few days, they develop some glands that allow them to feed other larvae bees in the hive, and also as they get a little older, they're able to produce what's called royal jelly, so they can actually feed the queen royal jelly, which is all she eats is royal jelly. They feed the other bees, the other larvae, something called worker jelly, which consists of pollen and honey. So after they've been in the hive for about 2 weeks doing all the house jobs, they graduate to what's called flyers, which means they can go out and find resources for the hive, which is nectar and pollen. Generally in the summer, in the busy time of year, a bee lives about 1 month. So it spends 2 weeks in the hive and 2 weeks gathering, and usually dies working very hard. In the wintertime, they live longer because they don't leave the hive very often. They probably live 3 or 4 months in the wintertime. So the bee's life is not really about the bee, it's about the whole colony. So the life of a bee is more about supporting all the other bees. It has nothing to do with its own wants, despite what the bee movie would have you believe. Now, that's as much as I want to go into about the life of a bee, but I would like to show you the basic components of the type of hive that I use for beekeeping. There are lots of different types of hives. I won't get into that, but I'm going to show you what I use, which is called the Langstroth hive. It's been around since the 1800s. The Reverend Langstroth developed this hive. What makes it special is you can pull it apart, take it apart, and you can go in and examine your bees at just about any time. The Langstroth hive consists of what's called a bottom board, either screened or not screened. Mine is screened. This is an entrance reducer, which I'll show you in a minute. brood box, or a deep hive body, which is this one. I have 5 frames in this. So this is a 10 frame body because I'm going to take this and combine it with the 5 frames in the nuke. I only need 5 frames for now. So the brood box sits on the bottom board, and the bees will enter the hive down here at about a 1/2 inch gap. And the entrance reducer is used when the colony is younger or smaller, or for other purposes. But I will put this one in just as a small area. Later, I'll flip it over to allow a larger area. And then if the hive gets really strong, I may remove it entirely or put shorter pieces. Okay, so you have the deep hive body. You can have 1 or 2 or 3 or however many. As the colony grows, you just keep adding to it. At some point, if you want to collect honey, which most people are, you add what's called a queen excluder to the hive. Now the worker bees can crawl between these, but the queen is too large. She cannot crawl between these wires. Then you add a medium or a deep, it doesn't matter, but these get really heavy when they're full of honey. So we're using mediums. You set that on. It's also filled with 10 frames. And the bees actually pull the comb out themselves. You don't provide them with that unless you have it. And then they put the honey in that. And this is where you get your honey that you're able to eat. At the top of your hive, this will not go on my hive that I'm going to be starting today. All they're going to need is this much, because it's twice as much area as they have right now. So, once you get your hive to this point, you use what's called a inner cover, okay? The inner cover has an escape hole, which I have it covered up for now because this hive is not strong enough to have to protect this entrance and this entrance from robber bees, so I'm going to do that. It has a notch to allow bees to escape. So normally this would sit like this. Bees would come out and be able to escape if they were threatened. But this also means they have to protect this entire opening from robber bees. So I'm going to close this off for a while until they get stronger. I will keep this like this so they can't get out. Later I might do this, because then all they have to do is guard that hole, that little small hole, and then eventually I'll take that out, and then I can flip this over, and there's space for them to come in here and out here. At the very top of the hive, you have what's called the outer cover, which I have one. They're different designs. My hives have 2 different designs over there, and then I have a third type. The outer cover slips down over. It doesn't stack in line. It slips over, and there's a little space here to allow the bees to go into that escape hole that I talked to you about right there. And that is a complete beehive. So when we get ours transferred over, it'll have everything except this super in place. That's all I have right now. Maybe when we're meet in person, you can ask me questions. And we're going to take a break, and Jared and I are going to get the bee suits on, and we're going to show you the inside of a beehive. Hello Scouts, we're back. Welcome to my small bee yard. I want to show you the hives that I have, and also we're going to demonstrate moving bees from what's called a nuke box, which these 2 are. They're basically very small hives, to a full-size hive. I have moved the nuke box over, and I've put the new hive where the nuke box was, because bees don't rely on their vision to find their way home as much as they do location and direction. So they entered at this point. I want them to enter at this point on their new hive. I'll remove that hive completely. This funny looking little silo thing is just my cover for their feeder jar, which I give them sugar water sometimes. And this is just to keep it from getting too hot. So, I have 2 full-size hives over here that I bought, complete with bees, everything, 6 weeks ago. We have since taken some bees out of that and some resources. Honey, pollen, brood. Brood is the growing young. Put them in 2 different nuke boxes. Purchased 2 queens and put in these. I was in both of these boxes earlier. I did see the queen in the far box. I have not seen the queen in this box. Doesn't mean she's not here, but I didn't see her. So I will be looking for her again as I go through that box. Plus, I will be shaking bees into this box, not brushing them. Like I might be brushing some, but I'll mostly be shaking. It's better for the bees to be shaken. And so I don't really want to shake the queen. If I find her, I'll catch her and I'll gently set her down into the hive because she's the most important bee I have. She should have a blue dot on her, but I'm pretty sure either she's missing or the dot is missing because I've looked twice and I haven't found her yet. So, what I will do, it's important that you have protective gear because bees do sting to protect their hives. And you also, it's advisable to use smoke, okay? Smoke does not calm bees, it distracts bees. When they smell smoke, they think there's a fire nearby and they start gorging themselves on honey because they're preparing to abandon the hive and go somewhere else and try to start a new hive. That only happens if their hive catches on fire. So, what we'll do, I will step around behind, you can see. I'm going to move a little fairly quickly. There's going to be a lot of bees flying because this is not an activity they look forward to, obviously, being transferred out of their hive into a new hive. But it's something that must be done because if they stay in this hive any longer, I feel like they're going to swarm. There's so many bees in here. So the first thing I'll do is I will smoke the entrance. This hive has ventilation holes, so I'll smoke the ventilation holes. I'll raise the lid, which this nuke does not have an inner cover, it just has an outer cover. I'll lower that for just a moment so the bees, give them just a minute. I'll take the outer cover, I'll look, make sure the queen is not in here. And now because I didn't see her before, I'm looking for not just a blue dot, I'm looking for a much larger bee, which the queen is. You see her in this video, you let me know, okay? We're going to remove one comb at a time. I'm not going to put them all in right now because, see, the bees are really excited because I've been in this hive twice this morning. They are really going to probably be tired of me being in here. Okay, get a good look at all these bees. You can see why I'm needing to move them. That's not a lot of bees for a hive, but they're drawing the comb out on this. I gave them, this is what's called a foundation frame, and they're drawing the comb so they can lay more eggs and store more nectar and honey. I'm going to look for the queen. I'm not seeing her. I want to look through some of these little bunches of bees to make sure she's not hiding down in those. I don't see her because there's a lot of these around. I don't see her. I am going to shake these into this new hive. Actually, what I want to do is take some of these out. I'm not going to shake these. Since I have these frames of foundation, what I'll do is I will add these just like this. That'll be less disruptive to the bees. And I'll add all these frames in, and I'll put those empty frames in last. I want to put these frames in basically in the same position they were in with all of the resources they have now toward the middle of the hive. That's where they like to lay eggs. They like to store honey on the outsides, and they like to lay their brood on the inside. Let's have a look at this frame. This frame, see if you can get it in there closer, Jared, has a lot of pollen. Those are the yellow dots. That's called bee bread. They take that and feed it to the larvae. That's all pollen, I think. Let me make sure I look for the queen. Oh, wait a minute. See, I just made them mad. Any sudden move makes the bees react very poorly. So I'm going to smoke them a little bit. I accidentally dropped that frame a little bit, so they get really excited. I want this frame to be on this side of all of these frames. So I want this frame to be here. Okay, these frames are coming out really easily because I pulled them out twice today already. Well, maybe I said that. The bees use what's called propolis to sort of glue everything down, and it doesn't take them long once they decide to glue everything down to do that. Okay, this frame, a little bit of capped brood. Jared, let me show them capped brood. This is capped brood that we gave them when we started the nuke. These queens are so young and have been in this hive so long they would not have any capped brood that they made. There should be eggs and larvae, which I found in the, oh, there's a lot of larvae, Jared, right there. That's hers, because the larvae we gave them would have been capped a long time ago. Let's see if we can find her on this frame. Yeah, that's a ton of larvae. Can you see it? Those white things that are like little curved pieces, those are larvae. This is capped brood. Those are bees that will be born soon. Let's see if we can find her. That's a good sign that I'm seeing larva. That larva appears to be 6-7 days old. That would be the first ones she laid probably. She's only been laying for about a week. Now I'm supposed to hold this over my shoulder and look for eggs. So I'm seeing lots of small larvae in this one, which is very, very positive. It may just be that I can't recognize eggs yet. I'm feeling better about this colony. Fall down. I'm going to put this back. I don't see the queen, but I'm seeing fairly young larvae, so hopefully she's in there and laying lots of eggs. Go to the next frame. We're almost done. They glued this down in about the hour and a half that I've been gone. We've already got this stuff glued back down. Yeah, I know, you're tired of me. Been bothering you all day. You really should only go into your house not more than once a week. And this is the third time I've been in it today. First time just to see if she was laying. Second time I was worried I couldn't find her. Taking a second look, and now I feel like I need to move these bees before they swarm because there are so many bees in a small hive like this. They're ready for more space. That is just nectar and pollen. I would not expect the queen to be over here. I would have expected her on that last frame. This last frame is mostly just honey. And if Jared can get a close picture, you can see a lot of the bees will have their head down drinking that honey because they, remember I told you they think there's a fire and they want to drink as much of that honey as they can. This is, Jared, if I can show the other side, you can see a lot of capped honey. That's what the beekeeper's in it for there. Now, we're in it for the bees too, but we love to see a lot of honey. This is not honey that we will ever eat. This will be the bees. The honey we get from the bees will be from the honey supers above. We let them keep all this honey for themselves. There is a little, you know what? That might be some brood there, so she could be over here. Yeah, there's some brood in there. In this corner up here by the honey, there is some brood. She could be, I'm hoping just her little spot that identifies her has just come off and she's still here. And I just hadn't been able to see her. this is some sheets we put in. I've got some in my pocket. This is to catch what's called hive beetles, which is a pest that attacks. Oh gosh, look at this. Jared, see if you can get the pollen sac on this bee. Can you come around? This guy has like massive, this is the pollen he's carrying into the hive. See if you can get him. See how much pollen he's got? He's probably got twice as much pollen as normal bees have. And he's actually eating parts of that dead bee. Bees, you're going to crush a few bees every time you go into the hive, and the bees don't waste anything. If they can get to that's protein, they will eat that bee, and it'll go towards keeping their colony alive. So, I do not see her in here. Take this off. This off. There. Now you'll see me shake a few bees. So I'll get these guys off of here. Bees, young bees, house bees, not only, they're not flyers, they can't fly for a week or two after they're born. So all they can do is walk. So you want to shake them right into the hive, because if they go on the ground, they may not be able to get back in the hive. It might leave a little stick or something that they can crawl back up into the hive if they need to. Alright, I've got to shake these bees into this hive. Let's move this. That's just going to have to stay there. It's wedged in. Now you get to see me shake some bees. Alright, look at those on the front. That's another reason. See, they need space. They start piling up on the outside like that, that means they've used just about all of that hive they could use. Ones that can fly will fly. Just want to give them a quick little shake. Still a lot of bees in there.
Your thing came off, Dad. It's in the hive.
Oh, it's on the hive. Thank you. That did not make them happy. Let's see if we can't distract them a little bit. Bees are excited. They're not exactly, look at that one. I accidentally touched the honey with my sleeve, and he's really interested in drinking some of that honey, not stinging me. They are after me, but these bees are actually doing very well. I have not been stung, and I haven't noticed they're really trying to sting. I don't know if you can get the behavior, but they've got their tails in the air and they're flexing their wings. When they stick their tails up and they flap their wings, they're releasing a pheromone saying, hey, here's where we are, we're over here. Come this way. It's the way they communicate with each other. These two are really doing that. Alright, I gotta get some of these guys back in there. That loud sound is not something they like. Alright, I didn't want to have to, but I'm going to have to use the bee brush on a few of these. You hand it to me, Jared, it's just right behind you. The bee brush is really much, it's not something you can imagine. The size of those fibers compared to the bee's body. Somebody brushing you with something like that. Not sure what the comparison would be, but that wouldn't be any fun. Come on, we got a new house. Time to get rid of this one. There. I may come back later and give them some sugar syrup in an entrance feeder. I'll have to remove that entrance. These guys have a lot of resources, so they don't necessarily need it right at the moment. But I am going to give them a little bit of pollen substitute, putting up with me. And I just lay this, and they will actually take this paper. This is some stuff that's got sugar water and some things that are like pollen that they can eat. They'll eat that, and they'll take the paper and they'll take it out of their hive. I was going to put some those little sheets that catch the beetles, but I'm not 100% sure I'm sold on those yet, because they seem like I've caught as many bees as I have beetles, but obviously beetles live longer than bees, so I guess that's a pretty fair trade. And there's a lot more bees. One or two beetles can do a lot more damage than one or two bees can help. You want to push these frames together because bees like what's called bee space. Anything more than about a ½ inch, they're going to try to build a comb in it. You don't want bee comb except where you want it to be. So you push these together from the outside, and that gives them the proper space they need to live. Alright, let's put the inner cover. Hope he escaped. Oh, I like to put this on and try to, I don't like to crush bees, so I try to, sometimes I'll smoke them off, or sometimes there's not that many here. Try to kind of snow plow them if I can, for some, and then I just like a little twist, make sure everything's lined up very nicely. And the cover. Alright, they're finding their entrance, they're finding their way in. Here, we'll leave this propped up right here in case there's some bees that can't fly. They can climb up now and crawl back in if they need to. I'll leave that there for a day. Alright, that wraps that up. I'm sorry I couldn't find the queen and show her to you, but I'm happy that I was able to show you my hive.